one seemingly warm and familiar Thanksgiving. Emily uncovered a painful truth. The financial support her father, Richard, believed he'd been sending her had never arrived. Instead, her mother, Linda, had secretly redirected all of it to her younger sister, Madison, to support her dreams in the fashion industry. From that moment, the illusion of a happy family began to crack, exposing favoritism, hidden wounds, and the quiet journey of a daughter who had been overlooked for far too long. If you've ever felt overlooked or less important than someone else in your own family, drop a comment below and let me know where you're watching from. Don't forget to subscribe and follow my journey as I reclaim my voice, rebuild my strength, and finally choose to be seen. That Thanksgiving dinner started like every other year, quiet, familiar, seemingly warm. The dining room hadn't changed, the same heavy oak furniture, soft jazz playing in the background, and the familiar scent of Mom's signature roasted squash filling the air. Emily's father, Richard, carefully carved the turkey with the precision of someone who had once worked in medicine, like he was still in an operating room. For a moment, Emily almost convinced herself that everything was okay, that the family she remembered still existed. But all of that shattered with a single question. As Richard passed her the mashed potatoes, he smiled and asked, "Is the $2,000 a month still enough?" The fork slipped from Emily's hand, hitting her plate with a small but jarring sound. "What money?" she asked, blinking rapidly, her voice quiet. The room fell silent. Even the jazz seemed to fade away. Richard's smile faltered as he looked at Linda, Emily's mom, who avoided his eyes. "I haven't received anything," Emily said, each word slow and strained. "Not once." "Linda," Richard's voice was firm for the first time. Linda didn't look rattled. Instead, she calmly set down her napkin and said, "I thought the money would be better used elsewhere." "For who?" Richard asked, his patience fraying. "I thought it was going to Emily." "Wasn't it?" Linda's hand trembled slightly as she reached for her glass. "It's been going to Madison. Her program in LA is more expensive. She needs it more." The words hit like a punch. Emily's voice cracked. "And I don't need to eat? While she's out attending fashion events in Beverly Hills?" Linda didn't answer right away. When she did, her voice was even, as if presenting a logical decision rather than a betrayal. "You've always been the strong one. You've managed. Madison, she's more sensitive. She needed the support." It wasn't the first time Emily felt like the second choice, but it was the first time she had hard proof. Her own father genuinely believed he had been supporting her. In reality, her mother had secretly funneled all the money to her younger sister. Madison, the favorite child, the one chasing the spotlight, got everything. Emily, the independent one, was expected to survive on scraps. Richard turned to Emily, his face pale. "What have you been doing to get by?" he asked, a quiet hurt in his voice. "I've been working nights," Emily replied, "tutoring, bartending, skipping meals, but sure, I'm fine." Her words were laced with bitterness. She wasn't saying she was okay, she was saying she had no choice but to be. Linda stood and said softly, "Let's not do this here. It's Thanksgiving." But for Emily, it was already too late. The warmth of tradition had been stripped away. What used to feel like comfort now felt like a carefully rehearsed performance. Emily rose from the table and stepped into the hallway. The air too still, the silence too loud. She tried to breathe. The truth had broken through the surface, and there was no going back. That dinner didn't just reveal betrayal. It marked the moment Emily realized she couldn't keep surviving in silence. It was the first step in reclaiming her voice, her worth, and the space she had been denied for far too long. After that devastating Thanksgiving dinner, Emily left the house in silence, carrying wounds she hadn't yet voiced. She didn't say anything more to her mother, and her father, who had only just begun to grasp the truth, didn't try to stop her. Walking out of the house that once held so many childhood memories, Emily didn't cry. She was used to keeping things in. But this time, the betrayal didn't come from the outside world. It came from the very people she trusted most. Back in Philadelphia, life didn't leave room for emotion. Emily returned to her packed schedule of classes and work, not out of ambition, but because she had no other choice. Her days were crammed. Anatomy lab in the morning, tutoring in the afternoon, and bar shifts late into the night. She hardly had time to breathe, let alone rest or enjoy a proper meal. Breakfast, usually just a black coffee and a protein bar on her way to class. Lunch, if she was lucky, A discounted sandwich or leftovers from a study group. Dinner? Instant noodles or day-old pastries from the cafe that tossed them out at closing. It sounded like a typical college student's struggle, but for Emily, it was a daily survival routine, stretched over weeks and months. Her shoes had long since split at the soles. One Friday night, during a shift at the bar, she stapled them back together behind the counter. These little details, a torn textbook, expired painkillers, the growing fatigue, weren't visible to most. But to Emily, they were constant reminders of being unseen. Eventually, her body gave out. That night at the bar was busy. Music thumped, customers waved for drinks, and Emily smiled through it all, tray in hand, trying to ignore the dizziness creeping in. She remembered the exact moment. Someone was calling for service. She was balancing a tray of cocktails. And then, heat, then nothing. She woke up staring at a pale hospital ceiling. A soft beep came from the monitor beside her. An IV ran into her arm. A nurse asked gently, "Is there someone we can call?" Emily shook her head. She didn't want to lie. She didn't have the strength to say something like, "My mom's probably busy," or "My dad will call back later." Later, her manager told her he'd called both her parents when the ambulance came. No one picked up. No one showed. 2 days passed before anyone visited. It was Callan, her lab partner. He showed up unannounced, carrying a grocery bag and a pan of baked ziti. "I heard something happened," he said, setting the food down on the tiny kitchen counter in her dorm. "You look like you're disappearing." Emily sat at the edge of her bed, hoodie drawn tight, legs folded up to her chest. "I'm fine," she whispered. Callan didn't argue. He simply handed her a plate and sat across from her in silence. She took a bite. It was warm, real, and she had to stop herself from crying over a forkful of noodles. That night, she slept for 12 hours straight. When she woke up, there were 2 texts from her mom. The first read, "Can you send Madison the name of that skincare brand you liked?" The second, "Don't forget to eat." Emily stared at them for a moment, then deleted both. It was too late for concern to feel like love. A few days later, she saw Madison's Instagram story, sunlit brunch in West Hollywood. Glowing skin, perfect angles, caption, "No better way to start the day. Thanks, Mom." Then another post, a white silk dress, gold-rimmed cocktails, and that soft, expensive-looking lighting, designer tags, Balenciaga boots, filtered laughter. Emily sat on her bed, holding a cracked phone, thinking about the last time she ate fresh vegetables. 3 weeks ago, maybe. She remembered asking her mom for help buying a new anatomy textbook. Hers was falling apart. Her mom's reply had been short, "That's a luxury. Emily, you'll have to make do." Emily wasn't jealous, not exactly, but the hurt was deep. It wasn't about the money, it was about being forgotten, overlooked, dismissed as the strong one, as if strength meant she didn't deserve care. That night, she stared at Madison's newest post, laughing on a balcony. City skyline behind her, jazz playing softly in the background. Emily watched it 3 times. Then, without thinking, she opened her camera. She snapped a photo of her own hand, cracked nails, calloused fingers, the same gray hoodie she'd worn for 4 days. She didn't post it. Instead, she opened her contacts and scrolled until she found Madison. Her thumb hovered, then she hit call. While Iris was surviving on instant noodles and worn-out shoes, her younger sister, Soraya, seemed to be living in an entirely different world. Her Instagram feed was filled with sunny brunches in West Hollywood, rooftop lounges glowing in golden hour light, cocktails in crystal glasses, white silk dresses, and captions like, #gifted. Every photo was a reminder that somewhere out there, life could be effortless, and in that world, Iris didn't exist. It wasn't the first time Iris had felt the sting of comparison. Growing up, Soraya was always described as the softer one, the sensitive one, the one who needed protecting. Iris? She was the strong one, the independent one, the girl who could manage on her own. But never had the difference between them felt so sharp, so undeniable, because this time, it wasn't just a feeling. It was proof, captured in filtered photos, unanswered messages, and the silence that followed her collapse. Then one evening, Iris did something she hadn't done in months. She called Soraya. The call began with surprise. "Iris, you never call. Is everything okay?" Soraya's voice was light, bright, carefree. "I'm fine," Iris lied. "Just wanted to check in." Soraya giggled and launched into a story about a recent photo shoot in Pasadena. A stylist she didn't like, and how her favorite cafe had run out of almond milk. She talked and talked, never thinking to ask how Iris was doing. Eventually, Iris interrupted. How do you manage everything financially in LA? It's not cheap. Soraya laughed, like the question was ridiculous. Oh, Mom takes care of it. She wires me $3,500 a month. Sometimes more if I have events or shoots. She always says it's about investing in the dream. Iris went still. She felt the words sink into her like ice. Not because of the number, but because of how casually Soraya said it. Like it was normal. I didn't know that, Iris said quietly. Didn't know what? That you were getting that much. I thought Mom didn't have anything left. There was a pause. A real pause. I thought you were getting money too. Soraya said softly. I haven't received a dime. Not since August. Soraya didn't respond right away. When she did, her voice was lower. I didn't know, I swear. I thought you were still getting something. Mom said. She said what? That you're stronger. That you always manage. That I needed it more. Iris closed her eyes. I believed her too, once, until I had to choose between buying a textbook or eating dinner. It wasn't about envy, not really. It was about being erased. About watching someone else live freely while you were praised for silently surviving. Soraya didn't defend herself. For once, she didn't try to explain it away. Things didn't change overnight, but something shifted, in the way Soraya started to look at their family. And in how Iris stopped minimizing her pain. The next day, Soraya didn't post a new story. A week later, she sent Iris a picture. A dress she'd designed using leftover fabric from the boutique where she'd just started working part-time. The caption said, not designer, but at least it's mine. Iris didn't know how to respond. So she wrote, I'm glad for you. And maybe, just maybe, that was a beginning. Emily returned to Chicago for Thanksgiving with only one resolve. She wouldn't stay silent this time. The flights were long, the layovers exhausting, but her mind stayed focused. She didn't know exactly what she'd say, only that she couldn't pretend anymore. Dinner was quiet, almost too quiet. Lentil soup, chicken salad, a store-bought pie, nothing fancy. But no one cared about the food. The silence between family members felt like glass about to shatter. Her dad glanced up. You okay? Emily shrugged. Depends on what you mean by okay. What have you been eating lately? Instant noodles, discounted sandwiches, leftovers from work, if I'm lucky. Her dad frowned. The $2,000 your mom wires every month isn't covering it? Emily met his eyes. There haven't been any transfers. Dad, not a single dollar. The fork slipped from his hand. He turned to Emily's mother. Leona? She stared into her soup. Unmoving. You said you were sending money. He said, slowly. I was. She replied evenly. To Soraya. She needs it more. Fashion is expensive. Emily clenched her jaw. And I don't need to eat? Her mother looked startled at the sound of her voice. I'm not saying you don't need help. I just thought, you've always managed. You're stronger. Being strong doesn't mean I don't need support. Emily said, calm but firm. Her father rose from his chair, slowly. Deliberately. He looked at his wife with something more painful than anger, betrayal. You told me she was getting help every month. I believed you. That night, he knocked on Emily's door. She didn't respond, but he entered anyway, softly. Like he wasn't sure if he still had the right. I couldn't sleep, he said. I keep replaying everything. He sat at the edge of her bed and sighed. You remember that summer you wanted to attend that medical camp? Your mom told me you changed your mind, said you wanted to stay home and save money. I thought, that's so responsible, but now I wonder, did you cry after that? Emily didn't answer. She didn't need to. I thought you were okay. Your mom always said you were independent, that you didn't need as much. I let myself believe it. The next morning, Emily found her dad in his study, scrolling through bank records with his reading glasses halfway down his nose. When he saw her, he looked up and said, You need to know something. I didn't just believe your mom. I gave her access to the trust fund your grandparents set up for you and Soraya. It was supposed to be split evenly, 50-50. I thought it was locked until you both turned 25. But she's been diverting the money to a separate account under Soraya's name. He rubbed his temples. $250. Gone. Emily didn't feel shocked, just strangely validated. What now? I've already called the attorney. We're starting the process to reverse it. It'll take time. That night, the arguments started again. Her mother's voice rose sharp. Frantic. You don't understand. She needed those opportunities. Networking. Branding. Her dad's voice cut through lower. Stronger. Not for Iris? You stole from our own daughter. Hearing her name like that, spoken loudly, defended, hit Emily hard. She stood at the top of the stairs. Out of sight. Listening. You didn't even ask me. Her dad said. Quieter now. I trusted you. And you stole from Iris. Emily didn't stay to hear her mother's answer. She already knew what it would sound like. 2 days later, Soraya called. Her voice was tight. Mom says I'm only getting $1 a month now. Is that true? Yeah, Emily replied. Dad's handling the finances now. A long pause. I can't live on that. Rent, classes, materials. I know. Silence again, as if Soraya was waiting for Emily to offer a solution. She didn't. You really think this is fair? I think it's overdue. Soraya hung up. Later that night, Emily caught her mom slipping cash into an envelope. She didn't confront her, but she knew exactly who it was for. So did her father. This time, he didn't yell. He just looked at his wife across the kitchen and said, I can't do this anymore. She stared back, unmoving. I was trying to protect her. And who was protecting Emily? She's fine, her mom said. She's always been fine. He shook his head. You keep saying that like it justifies everything. I just wanted the best for Soraya. And what did Emily get? Her mother had no answer. The next morning, her father called a lawyer. By the end of the week, he had filed for legal separation. The house changed after that, quiet in a different way. Her mother moved through the days like she was underwater. She cooked, folded laundry, rearranged books that hadn't been touched in years. But she didn't really speak to Emily. Not anymore. Emily stayed 2 more nights. The silence between rooms stretched like something broken but unnamed. When she zipped her suitcase to leave, her mother stood in the doorway, arms crossed, like she wanted to say something, but didn't. And Emily didn't wait. After leaving Chicago, Emily returned to Philadelphia feeling both lighter and emptier. Confronting the truth didn't heal everything, but it gave her space to breathe. She dropped some of her shifts at the bar, just kept the weekends, and continued tutoring in the afternoons. The rest of the time, she studied, slept, and ate real food, things that once felt like luxuries. No more sleepless nights juggling labs and late-night shifts. No more choosing between dinner and Tylenol. She bought herself a new pair of sneakers, not fancy, just intact. It wasn't just a necessity, it was a quiet acknowledgement. I deserve this. Her grades rose quickly, not because she got smarter, but because she finally had the energy to focus. One professor commented, "You're really shining, Emily." And for the first time, she believed it wasn't a burden to live up to. Her dad called every week, sometimes just to say he missed her. When he visited, he brought groceries and books, and something she had longed for years, quiet. Unconditional presence. She began to understand that real love isn't loud or flashy. It simply shows up. Her relationship with her mom stayed distant. Their calls were short, polite, guarded. Her mom didn't apologize, didn't justify, but also didn't deny anymore. The silence between them wasn't war, it was a space neither had the words to cross. Then, there was Soraya. At first, her messages were routine, outfits, updates, small talk, but then they changed. Soraya started sending pictures of pieces she'd designed, made from leftover fabrics at the small sustainable boutique where she worked part-time. "They're not designer," she wrote, "but they feel like mine." Emily didn't know how to respond. She just texted back, "I'm happy for you." One evening, as Emily was leaving the library, Soraya called, out of the blue. Her voice was quieter than usual. I finally see it now." "See what?" Emily asked. "What it cost you." "All of it." There was a pause, not awkward, just honest. "I didn't want to believe it," Soraya continued, "because if I did, I'd have to admit Mom made things easier for me. And that meant she made things harder for you." Emily looked up at the night sky. City lights reflected in the library windows. "I don't need you to feel guilty," she said, "just don't pretend it was fair." "I won't." That was all Soraya said. But this time, the promise felt real. Over time, Soraya changed. She worked seriously at the boutique. Talked about craftsmanship instead of couture. No more gold-trimmed brunches or #gifted tags. Her pride became quieter, but more genuine. One night, she called again. I'm thinking about going home for the holidays. She said, to see Mom. Emily didn't answer right away. Would you want to go together? Soraya added, not for her, just to do it right this time. There was a long silence, but Soraya didn't fill it. She just waited. Emily found herself nodding before she even realized it. Okay, she said, let's go. Christmas that year wasn't magical. No dramatic reunions, no hugs under twinkling lights. Just an early flight, 2 small carry-ons, and a soft knock on the door. Their mom answered wearing an old sweater Emily didn't recognize. Her hair had more gray than last year. Her smile was faint, unfinished, but honest. They sat around the same table where it all broke. The meal was plain, roasted vegetables, dry turkey, store-bought pie. No one brought up the past, but no one pretended it hadn't happened either. And maybe that was healing. That night, in her childhood room, Emily placed her newest tuition receipt into a drawer. Next to it was a folded note in her father's handwriting. This is yours, not because you earned it, but because I finally saw you. She read it once more before closing the drawer. For a long time, Emily believed love had to be proven. That silence meant strength, and strength meant not needing anything at all. She doesn't believe that anymore. She believes in being seen. And she believes some stories don't end with healing. They begin with it. A year after everything came to light, nothing about Emily's family was quite the same. The old cracks hadn't completely disappeared, but they weren't open wounds anymore. Just faded lines, quiet reminders of where healing had begun. Late December, Soraya called. Her voice was hesitant, but steady. I'm thinking about going home for Christmas, she said, to see Mom. Emily didn't respond right away. She didn't want to pretend everything was okay, but she also didn't want to end the year with silence. Do you want to go together? Soraya asked, not for her, just to do it right this time. Emily paused. For the first time, she wasn't being pressured to forgive, to be strong, to carry the silence for everyone else. Finally, she said, yeah, let's go. On Christmas Day, they flew into Chicago on an early flight. No big bags, no gifts wrapped in bright paper, just a few changes of clothes and things left unsaid. Their dad met them at the airport. He didn't say much, but the way he looked at them said enough. They knocked at the door. Their mom answered, wearing a gray sweater Emily didn't recognize. Her hair was grayer, her face a little more tired. She smiled, small, but not forced. Hi, girls, she said, eyes meeting both of theirs. Dinner wasn't elaborate. Roasted vegetables, slightly overcooked turkey, a store-bought pumpkin pie. No one brought up the past, but no one pretended it hadn't happened. Maybe that was the quiet beginning they all needed. So how's school? Their mom asked. It's good, Emily replied. I dropped some shifts. Sleep better. My grades are up. That's good to hear, her mom said, nodding slowly. Keep going. Emily didn't say anything. She just nodded back. It wasn't a grand gesture, but even a late acknowledgement could feel like warmth. Soraya talked about her job at the boutique, about the pieces she'd sewn herself from leftover fabric. No one mentioned designer brands. No one talked about wire transfers. They all knew. Later that night, Emily returned to her childhood bedroom. It looked smaller than she remembered. She took a plain white envelope from her bag, her tuition receipt, and placed it in the drawer beside a folded piece of paper with her father's handwriting. This is yours, not because you earned it, but because I finally saw you. She read it one more time before gently closing the drawer. That night, no one cried, no one made speeches. Emily lay in bed listening to the soft hum of the heater, realizing she was back in a place that didn't feel quite like home, but didn't hurt to be in anymore. The next morning, Emily and Soraya took a quiet walk to the park near their old school. The winter air was sharp but calm. Do you think Mom's changed? Soraya asked. I don't know, Emily said. Maybe a little, but I'm not waiting on that anymore. Me either, Soraya said. After a moment, she added, I don't think love should mean staying silent just to prove you're enough. Emily gave her a small smile. Me neither, and I don't want to be loved for how much I can endure. Soraya's eyes turned glassy. I see you now, Em, not because Mom told me to, but because I do. Emily didn't say anything. She just reached for her sister's hand. That Christmas wasn't perfect, but it was real, and that was enough. She no longer believed love had to be earned through suffering. She didn't believe silence meant strength. Not anymore. She believed in being seen. in being chosen, in not having to shrink to be worthy. A year ago, she thought her story ended with survival. Now, she knew it had only just begun. If you've ever felt forgotten, if you've ever stayed silent just to keep the peace, this story is for you. Because sometimes, what we need isn't forgiveness. It's to be seen, to be valued, to be loved fairly. Emily's journey didn't end with some perfect apology or picture-perfect moment. It ended with truth, and began with growth. Drop a comment below and let me know where you're watching from. Have you ever felt like Emily? Don't forget to subscribe for more real stories, stories of quiet courage, healing, and the people who were told to be strong, just because no one ever asked if they were okay. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next video.